conservative radio talk show icon. Rush Limbaugh passed away today at age 70. That after a long battle with lung cancer. Rush's wife, Kathryn, announced his death at the start of Limbaugh's radio show just a short time ago. Limbaugh was an original, beyond a doubt, whether you agreed or disagreed. He created an entire industry with his voice, his brash, and his often inflammatory opinions.
A pioneer of conservative media and a deeply polarizing figure, Rush Limbaugh became the most prominent political radio host in modern American history.
We make the complex understandable, and we do it in a way that makes you love your country, not hate it.
He started as a top 40 DJ,
a program exclusively designed for rich conservatives and right-minded Republicans,
but shifted to AM talk radio in the 80s. His namesake show was nationally syndicated in 1988, eventually expanding to more than 600 radio stations. Fans, known as ditto heads, cheered his brazen style, while critics blasted him for racist, sexist, and other offensive speech. He accused actor Michael J. Fox of exaggerating his Parkinson's symptoms.
He is moving all around and shaking, and it's purely an act.
Women must decide their fate.
And he insulted a college student who advocated for access to birth control.
It makes her a slut, right? Makes her a prostitute.
After sponsors dropped his show, Limbaugh apologized for that one.
I again sincerely apologize to Ms. Fluke for using those two words to describe her.
In 2003, his stint as an NFL commentator on ESPN lasted only 4 weeks. He resigned in the face of public outcry after suggesting that Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb was overrated because of his race.
The media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well.
But Limbaugh's popularity survived all the controversies as well as his own personal struggles. In 2001, he suffered hearing loss from an autoimmune disease. 2 years later, he admitted a drug problem.
I am addicted to prescription pain medication.
Limbaugh was arrested for doctor shopping in 2006, but went to rehab and the charge was dropped. Through it all, he remained a hero to the right, defending Republicans from what he said was the biased liberal media. Radio executives praised his storytelling abilities and his broadcasting talent. Limbaugh was a GOP kingmaker and a close ally of President Trump, with a direct line to the White House.
I just received clearance. The president has gotten word to me that he is either getting funding for the border or he's shutting the whole thing down.
In 2020, President Trump awarded Limbaugh the Medal of Freedom at the State of the Union.
In recognition of all that you have done for our nation, the millions of people a day that you speak to and that you inspire.
A day before, Limbaugh announced that he had been diagnosed with advanced lung cancer, and he spoke directly to his radio audience.
Over the years, a lot of people have been very nice, telling me how much this program has meant to them. But whatever that is, it pales in comparison to what you all have meant to me.
A conservative media icon whose legacy will always symbolize division.
Let's bring in our chief media correspondent, Brian Stelter, who produced that fabulous obituary. Brian, there are just so many ways to describe Rush Limbaugh, a trailblazer without a doubt, also someone who survived even as the business and the industry went into the digital era and the cable era. He just remained an icon and a presence because of the power of his voice and his ability to overcome those significant struggles, as you noted.
Yes, absolutely. And he was on the air for about a year after announcing his lung cancer diagnosis. It was February of last year that he shared that news with his audience. He was on the air pretty much all throughout the election, taking brief breaks because of his cancer treatments. He was on the air as recently as February 2nd. And for the past 2 weeks, John, he has been off the air, which caused growing concern among his fans as they were fearing that this was the end of Limbaugh's life. The homepage of RushLimbaugh.com now proclaims, "In loving memory of Rush, the greatest of all time." And that is very much how he will be remembered in right-wing media and by millions of fans who listen to him every day. You know, in the obituary, we were talking about the many controversies and scandals in his career, many others that I even left out. But you think about the daily relationship he had with listeners, and that is really what Rush Limbaugh was about. That daily relationship, talking to people who were driving in their cars turning on the radio at noon Eastern time every day in their homes, wanting to hear from him every afternoon. The content was very polarizing. I would argue oftentimes it was all about grievance culture, making conservatives out to be the victims. And yet he had an incredible connection to his fan base with those daily themes, day in, day out. It's that kind of connection that made him the most prominent broadcaster in right-wing radio for decades, Sean.
And so the question is, Rush was a survivor. And to your point, when I was not a in-studio person, I drive across the country covering politics, especially in the heartland. You stop somewhere, you talk to people, they would often say, but Rush says, or they would repeat things that you had heard on the radio an hour before or a day before when you're listening to Rush as you drive across the country. So the impact, whether you agree or disagree, is unmistakable. The question now is, again, with our business in constant transition, is there a replacement for Rush, or is the talk radio piece of it fading as things become more digital and cable?
I think in some ways Rush Limbaugh was able to defy gravity. He was able to defy radio gravity because his program was still a must listen at a time when radio as a format has been under increasing challenges. Will there be a replacement for him on the radio? Yes. President Trump's name has been mentioned, others as well. But I noticed in the past 2 weeks, reading comments from Rush's fans, feeling like the fill-ins were not nearly as strong as him. It is a very, very difficult challenge for the company that runs his radio show. And by the way, his radio show was the foundation for hundreds of local radio stations all across the country. I would sometimes have, John, sometimes liberals say to me, Rush Limbaugh, he is a damaging force in the United States. He must be stopped. And my reaction in those conversations would be to say, learn from him. Go and listen to his show. See what he does that is so appealing to his listeners. And then if you're a liberal activist, you can go try to do it better. If you're a progressive advocate, go try to do it better. But the point is, there are lessons to be learned from Rush Limbaugh. And some of them are about there were times where he was crass, ugly, indecent. That's absolutely true. And I'm not saying those are lessons to be learned from his radio show. But he also was able to forge connections with his listeners and give people a reason to come back every day. And there are those sorts of skills that I would argue could be learned from Rush and from his career. And those are some of the reasons why this is a massive loss for the Republican Party, for the conservative movement, because he was an icon for the party.
Brian Stelter, grateful for the reporting and insights on this day. Again, Rush Limbaugh, dead at the age of 70, a talk radio icon, a voice in the Republican Party, conservative America, dead now, pioneer in talk radio at the age of 70. We'll be right back.